What was probably the coolest experience that you had during BMQ?
Ooh. I mean, I think by default being combat arms of the field, right? Like by default, just the field in general. I will say that the gas hut experience, because I know it differs for some people. I know some people maybe it's a little less potent or a little more potent, or maybe they didn't, whatever the case may be, right? Ours was I remember putting all of our CBRN stuff on, going through. They had the tablet on, like, yeah, we're just gonna do a walkthrough. We're gonna do all the checks and stuff like that. And then when you go out, this is like it's gonna be go time. So I remember going out, taking all my stuff off, and this was when you walk into the gas hut when it's gassed with nothing on, and then you've got to take the hit and then put gear up when you can't see, you can't breathe, nothing, right? I remember the first kid goes in and you literally hear, ah! He just starts screaming. And I remember looking at all the other kids and they're like, what's going on? And I remember just in the moment just being like, that's what happens when you don't pay attention, right? But yeah, he just wasn't expecting it. So going in, I was like, do I just hold my breath and start putting my gear on? I'm like, no, I got to take the hit, right? I have to take the hit. So I remember approaching the door. The master corporal just looks at me, thumbs up. I'm like, oh man. I took a deep breath. I let it out. I took 2, 3 steps in the building. I tried to take a breath and my lungs just closed. Like my lungs closed, my nose, my eyes were leaking, and then my nose started leaking. And I know this is gross, but it was literally like it was like chunks of stuff. Like it was bad. So I'm like, I've never felt like that feeling before. And then I was like, oh shit, I got to put my gear on because I got to breathe, right? So threw my stuff on. Now, thankfully, obviously, them drilling stuff in your head and all the times we had done CBR. And at the time, you're like, this sucks. It's 40 degrees outside. Why am I putting this gas mask on for no reason? Well, that's why, right? And so I remember getting all my stuff on and I was good. And I'd walked around and they had opened the door for the next guy to come in. And poor guy, my buddy goes in and takes his breath and he throws his stuff on and he gets it done. And they go, no, you didn't meet the time, bud. You got to go again. And because he was last in line, like there was nobody for him to like wait for. He went through, I think, at least 3 times, maybe 4 times, because he kept not meeting the minimum time, or maybe something wasn't done up properly. So I just remember thinking how shitty I felt for like those next 5 minutes of just like it felt like fire and like blood was coming out of my face. And then I remember thinking, well, whatever, dude, suck it up because he's been through it 4 times, right? So like, yeah, that was super unique. I'd never experienced any like feeling where like you're trying to like breathe or open your eyes and you can't because it just hit you like so hard. So that was super wild for sure. I think the ruck and shoot, that was really fun. Just like because usually you'd go to the range and then we'd jump in the MSVSs, or you were just doing a hike or whatever. So being out in the field and being literally in the field, like that was the first week we were there. We weren't in a fob or anything. We were literally just in the field. Like they had they had mosquito sprayed the area where the staff and the sergeants and the sirs and mams were going to be, but we were just setting up shop in the middle of the bush, right? So we were just getting like eaten alive. So anytime we could go, it was awesome. But yeah, doing that, whatever it was, 5K shooting and then like 5K back right away, that was really nice. The rappel tower, that was always fun. I don't know if did you guys do rappel tower? No, yeah, we had a 30 foot and a 60 foot. Yeah, so that was fun. And then we did it all, and we were kind of ahead of schedule, so they let just a bunch of people go. And then you'd get 1 or 2 people who either they weren't paying attention or they're like, oh, I did it twice and I'm good, and get a little cocky and they'd kind of lean back a little bit and they'd like roll over, so they're laying upside down by their heads. And of course they're safe, they're all tied up, like everything's all good, right? And then you can hear the staff at the front. Now this happened 2 or 3 times. I want to say twice just to be safe. I specifically remember the one guy getting pulled up super fast. And I remember the other guy dangling there for a bit. And I look up and I could see the sergeant and the master bombardier just laughing. And I remember thinking, like, see, he probably pissed that staff off at some point during the course. So they're just letting him hang for another 10 seconds. But yeah, that was super fun too. So I don't know what your situation was for live range, but we had to man the butts, right? Like where you would switch. Like, did you have
Yeah,
to
we
do
had to do
that?
that too. Yeah, we had to do that.
So I don't know how your setup was, but our setup was literally like our butts was in this like dugout that was like buried in like this hill, and then they had like the cement and like the bunker and everything like that. And then the target was quite literally, I'd say maybe 15 feet, 20 feet, not even 15 feet in front of me. And then however high, a little bit high it was or whatever, right? So we were sitting here just watching it, right? And obviously we're underground and we're in the bunker and shit's safe, but the rounds are quite literally coming over your head. And again, because we're 3-section, we're to the butts first and we're sitting in the butts all day, right? So like we're like, oh, this is gonna suck or whatever. And I remember being like the 3rd or 4th row in, and the first 2 sections starts shooting, and we're sitting there, and you can hear it popping off in the background because again, like they're C7s, they're 5.56 rounds. You're not firing like a C9 machine gun. Like they pop, but they're not like crazy, right? Especially if you got your protection in and stuff like that. And I remember when those rounds started coming over me, the guys whose like target I was like to change and kind of call out on, and you could just hear it crack like those bullwhips. And I was like, you're not being shot at, but you're being shot at. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I remember us just sitting there like, yeah, this is cool. We could sit here for a while and just deal with this and like just patching up the range stuff. And yeah, that was pretty fun.
For us, we couldn't see them actually. So it was like a hill, and then the people who were manning the butts were kind of behind the hill and then raising the targets up and down, but there was no transparency, so you couldn't see
Sure.
anything, but you could hear it, and then you could see like sometimes they would like fall down in front of you. And that was kind of interesting because it's like, damn, someone's shooting right near me with live ammo right now. So
Right? It's crazy. And I'll be completely honest with you, because before joining the military, um, personally, not too much experience with firearms, like the odd here or there or whatever. But until I changed and been on butts duty and actually walked up the first time to like patch my first like hole, I hadn't realized how small, because that was the first live shooting we had done and they were loading all the mags. So we went there and we gave them 2 empty mags. They gave us 2 full mags. So we didn't do any loading. I hadn't seen the rounds or anything. I could not believe how small the entry hole is from those 5.56 rounds. Like it looks like a pellet, like, you know, movies and stuff. Again, you think it's going to be like a bigger hole or something like that. And I was like, is that from the C, like the C7? Like it looks like a pellet hole. Like of course it's going to do damage, but